Your wife decided to pull away. Maybe she wants space, maybe she gave you the divorce papers and she's just not happy anymore. You guys are just transactional, you're roommates, the love and the emotional connection is gone. The moment you start to try to work on these things that she's complaining about to improve the marriage, you may get frustrated. You're frustrated because she's not choosing to do all the things that she does wrong. Look, I'm not going to deny that your wife isn't perfect and there's lots of things she has to work on. But let me show you in this video 3 powerful metaphors that will bury into your subconscious mind to shift the way you interact with your wife to get her back, to make her down the road start to take responsibility for her actions and things to want to solve the marriage. Before we jump in, press the like button, share this with other people, and let's just hop into it. Okay, so the first metaphor I want to lay out to you guys is what's called the emotional tipping scale. Now, it looks like this. On the most simplistic form, I want you to imagine that your wife's subconscious mind and the way she just basically feels toward you is based on this scale right here, okay, the ETS scale, emotional tipping scale. I want you to imagine that she subconsciously tallies all the positive and negative interactions she has with you over time. So we have positive over here, and then we have negative on the right. Now, when you guys first started off in your relationship, you guys were flooded with all these positive emotions, oxytocin, the limerence phase, right, serotonin. She was more high off you than heroin and cocaine, according to science. So think about it. The first date, right? The first time you guys said, I love you, making out, sex, kids, marriage, all these are positive interactions that put you into the positive perspective. Essentially, you were more of a source of joy to her life than stress. But of course, over time, what happens is, you know, death by 1,000 cuts? Over time, every time you didn't meet her needs or didn't understand her, or she felt distant from you, or you didn't come home in time, or you didn't listen to her, all these little things happened where eventually this tipping point occurred where it wasn't just like a slow shift. When this negative interaction point outweighed the positive, complete tip happened. Where now when she thinks of you, she has more stress than positive emotions. Okay? A good example of this is, I'm trying to look for my phone here, I don't have it, but if you were to call her right now and you're in the negative sentiment override, what that would look like is that the first time she sees your name, source of stress comes to her mind. She answers, hey, right? She's cold, she's distant. When a woman is in this state, because she sees you as more of a threat in her life than a positive gain, she's gonna, 1, proactively think subconsciously of all the past times in her life where you've hurt her, because that's how she sees you. It's like this lens she puts over her eyes and she can only remember the bad times. That's why your wife has this perspective on everything that you do. And when you're a source of stress for her, what essentially happens is that she doesn't want to take responsibility for her actions because she sees you as the enemy. Now, this may seem defeating. You may feel like, well, what's the point? Well, there's beauty in this as well. Because women are so emotional in the way they think, when you know how to produce more positive interactions with her, the tipping point will go back into the positive perspective. And that's when wives in our program will say to their husbands, you know what, I am sorry for everything. I do take responsibility for this. And because you're a source of value in her life again, you're meeting her needs, which I'm going to show you through the other 2 metaphors how to do this. She sees you as that positive source of joy and she wants to be with you again. Now, the primary way to first start to do this is to meet her needs, okay? The best way to meet her needs is that when she comes to you with a problem, instead of trying to logically solve the problem, you emotionally understand. So look at this. I want you to see another metaphor that I like to use. The second one is the shore and the ocean, okay? In your masculine nature, you're the guy that is solid, right? Most often when she comes to you with a problem and you're trying to help her with it, and she just gets more upset, and she's gaslighting you, and she's saying, well, you don't even see the way things happen, and you don't understand me, and all this stuff, and you feel overwhelmed, you just want to retreat, okay? However, if you know the correct framework and how to deal with her issues and make her feel understood, those interactions that normally turn into bickering and are a negative investment on this tipping scale, they turn to a positive one, okay? So I want you to imagine that you are the shore, okay? And she is the ocean. We're gonna use black water here, right? Because my blue's in the other office and I wanna go get it. So I want you to imagine sometimes water can gently caress the shore, be all soft and gentle. And this is how your wife was when you were in the positive perspective with her. But what happens over time when you go into the negative sentiment override? She gets upset, she gets frustrated. And in those times, that's when she needs you to be strong for her more than anything else. But when you try to solve her problems logically, because you're a smart guy, right, what happens is that she feels one thing, that you don't understand her, that her emotions are not taken seriously. I literally just got off a call with a doctor, very competent, intelligent guy, right? And throughout his whole entire career, all he does in his ego and who he is and his conceptualized self is whenever there's a problem, we objectively solve it. Whoever has the best framework and strategy to solve this problem, that's what wins. See, he was applying the same skills in his workplace to his wife. However, in the romantic context, logic doesn't matter. Your wife knows that when she brings a problem to you, it doesn't make logical sense. She knows that logically, she doesn't give a damn if it makes logic sense or not. She just wants to feel understood. And as a guy, you're thinking to yourself, well, it doesn't make sense. If she just knew the facts, then she wouldn't feel this way. But in her perspective, if you just understand how she felt, then she would calm down and then she could see the facts. Whenever women are in a stressful state, when you're in negative sentiment override, she's going into her stressful mind. If you look at the brain right here, it's a beautiful brain I'm drawing. You have the amygdala, right? Whenever we process emotion, this is the prefrontal cortex. This is where logic is housed, rationality. When she's emotional and her amygdala is going off, she's in flight or fight, she needs to feel understood. You cannot use logic to solve her emotions, to make her calm down. It's like this giant wave is coming at her, at the shore, at you, excuse me. And you're trying to talk the water down, like, hey, you're gonna crash into the shore and it's gonna hurt and it's gonna hurt people and she doesn't give a damn, okay? What happens is that when you're able to use the reflective statements, which I'll teach you in a second, you calm down that water. You calm down her amygdala. She goes into a rational state. And then you can talk to her about the details, about the objective facts about things. But first you have to understand her. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So what this looks like is this. The framework, the thing you're gonna use is this exact statement to a T. You feel, right? So you feel blank emotion because of this reason. That's it. So the example with the doctor that he gave me on the call just right now, he said, he tried to understand his wife. His wife said, you never take my advice, ever, and I don't feel respected by you. Instead, what he thought was, he came up with all these other times in the past where he did listen to her, where he did take her advice. But what happens is that in that moment, all she wanted from him was to say, you know, at times you feel like I don't take your advice and that's really frustrating to you. You feel frustrated because I don't take your advice. Now, where a lot of guys get tripped up about this is they're thinking that if I agree with my wife, then I'm saying she's right. That's not what you're doing. What you're doing is emotionally, you're putting your arm around her shoulder and saying, I see the way you see the world. I see that right now you feel this way. And ironically, what happens is that when you seek first to understand those emotions and say, I can see right now that you feel this way, she calms down, and then you can bring up all the times that you did meet her needs, that you did give her advice and she took it, or vice versa, that she gave you advice and you took it. But by trying to give her the facts first over the feelings, it only makes things worse, and it tells her in her mind, you don't care, you don't see the way things are, and that's why it gets worse. Let me give you one more example. I was working with a guy, right? He was at a party, right? A local party with friends and family and neighbors, and his ex-girlfriend was there from high school, okay? Now, when they were leaving, his wife wanted to leave out of nowhere. And he's like, what's going on? She's like, oh, I'm sick, I want to go home. He's like, okay. He believed her, which was mistake number one, because obviously there was a problem, but you know, women speak indirectly and she didn't want to bring up the problem in the party. But on their way home, driving, he's like, what's really going on? Something going on. She said, you called your ex baby. I heard you say that. Now, most men, when they hear that, they would immediately go to, I didn't call her that. I would never call her that. What are you talking about? You're hearing things, okay? That would escalate the situation. Instead, what he did was this. He paused. Step number one, he didn't get emotional, right? You pause. Take a deep breath in your nose. Because if you get emotional, nothing gets resolved. So he calmed down, took a deep breath in his nose, and he said, I'm not going to deny that you heard that. You probably did. I know that I didn't say that, but I'm not here to argue about that. I imagine that if you heard me say that to my ex, you probably felt really hurt. You see how he's not saying he said that, but he's saying if you heard that, which I'm sure you heard that, you would feel this way. He started to understand her first. He didn't defend, he didn't try to rationalize. What happened is that they were able to calm down and they were able to see eye to eye and resolve the problem. You have to start this way. 90% of the conversations that turn into this negative event are because of the way you start the conversation with logic. You have to start with emotion first. Now, the last metaphor I want to give you is a very powerful one. I go more into depth on this concept in the course. So if you want a chance to join my Marriage Mastery program, what you can do right now, click the link down below, fill out the application, set up a time. We have limited spots every week. You'll get on a call with our marriage evaluator. We'll see if we can help your marriage based on your situation, which can't help everyone. We can only help men that are committed financially and emotionally. So if you need help, set up a call down below. Now, this concept is somewhat conceptual and esoteric, but I'm telling you, if you get this down, all right, so let's look at this final metaphor. Okay, so S stands for stimulus. Now, the example I gave on one of the calls today with the guys in the Marriage Mastery program was this. His wife said she wanted space. She needed some time to think about things. She was going to go to her mom's house for the weekend. Okay, now, this man, his wife would give mixed messages about whether she wanted to work it out or not. They hooked up earlier that week, but yet she was taking space, so he wasn't sure, does she want out or does she want to work things out? Okay. So we looked at this. I spread it out for him with two possibilities. All right. So I said, let's look at this. These are your beliefs, right? Two different beliefs, and they can give you two different results. All results stem from the internal beliefs you have. Let me show you how. Let's go with the negative one first. Let's say he believed that his wife asking for space was a sign that she wanted out. That was the belief. I said, how would you feel emotionally if this was true? He said, oh, I would feel scared. I'd feel shut out. I'd be, he'd be really just fearful, trying to hold back. I said, cool. What would it mean if this was true and you felt that way? He said, I would think to myself, it's over. He would start thinking about the divorce proceedings. He would start thinking about the money, how they got to split it up, right? And that would mean to him that he was a failure as a husband. I said, cool. All right. How would you act around her if this was true, all that meaning? He said that he would be distant. He said that he would try to constantly beg her. He would be ruminating. He would be texting her more often. When he would speak to her, he would speak really, really fast and be insecure, right? I said, if you did all those things, what would the result be? He said, I would push her away. I put up my boundaries and things wouldn't work out, right? Divorce. I said, what if you knew for a fact you could take a time machine, go into the future, and know for certain that you worked it out with your wife, and that her wanting space actually means this is an opportunity for you to grow and she wants you to become a better man. What if that was true? What if that was gospel? Okay. How would you feel? He said happy. He said self-assured, confident. I said, okay, what does that mean if you were that way? What would it mean if you knew for a fact and you felt that way? He said, well, that would mean that we're soulmates, that things will always work out. This will make us stronger. How would you act around her if that was true? He said, I would be relaxed. I would give her the space, Josh. I wouldn't worry. I said, take as much space as you need. I know it doesn't change anything about the way we are, right? Doesn't change a thing. And what would be the result of all that? I think you know. The result would be reconciliation, giant heart, love, right? Fixing things, making it better. I want you to see with these three metaphors, this one in particular, this is everything. Now, the hardest thing for most guys to do is to identify these beliefs and then challenge them. This is what a coach does. This is what I've been doing for years. I hear the language you use and I call it out and I say, why do you think that? Let's shift that. And when you can see it on paper, that's when it shifts. Again, that's what I will give you on that marriage call.